His name is Raphael Sanzio. Now, Raphael is an extremely experienced painter and fresco artist. That's what he was trained for. Raphael is a very sweet-tempered, easygoing, good-natured guy who seems to get along with everybody. Michelangelo hates his guts. Not surprising. Part of that comes from Raphael having things pretty easy. He's doing what he knows how to do. He's painting. Raphael's a painter. Michelangelo over there is dying because he's a sculptor and he's being asked to paint a roof. Raphael, the sweet, even-tempered, easygoing guy, actually has built a reputation painting one particular kind of picture. Raphael is known for his Madonna and child pictures, his images of Mary and baby Jesus. This particular image is called very creatively Madonna of the Meadow because it's Mary in a meadow. You can see here that Raphael did correspond with Leonardo da Vinci. You can see da Vinci's influence, both in the atmospheric perspective in the background as the color and lighting fades away into the distance, and also in the composition of Mary, baby John, and baby Jesus. You can see that same cone or pyramid structure that Leonardo da Vinci used in the Madonna of the Rocks, again being utilized here in this image. Now, Raphael is known for these pictures. He loves painting pictures of Mary and baby Jesus, and they're all this beautiful, pure, pale-skinned depiction. In fact, Mary frequently looks similar throughout Raphael's work because Raphael always used the same group of people as his models. He always uses his girlfriends. And looking at the Marys that Raphael paints, again, he's known for Mary and child pictures. All of his Marys look really similar to one another. The reason is because Raphael always paints his girlfriend, and Raphael likes a certain type of girl. So his Marys look very similar to one another. All of them are very innocent, very pure, very blonde, and they're all paying attention to happy, chubby baby Jesus figures. Some of Raphael's images actually were located in the Sistine Chapel. That picture on the left, which if you recognize anything from it, you probably recognize the two little angels at the bottom. You may have seen them on stationery. Those are Raphael's. Those images were already used in the Sistine Chapel. Raphael was trained by the best. Raphael knows exactly what he's doing in terms of two-dimensional artwork and painting. So when Pope Julius hires him to work on Julius's rooms, Raphael's at home. He knows what he's doing. And not only that, Raphael's really good at playing with others. So instead of being grumpy like Michelangelo, Raphael invites Julius to comment on his artwork, to give him artistic input. While Raphael is doing this, Michelangelo's across the way struggling desperately. In fact, Julius at one point wants to see what Michelangelo's working on. Julius figures he's paying for this painting and he'd like to see it. Michelangelo forbids it, and Julius actually arranges to go into the Sistine Chapel after it is closed for the evening, and after Michelangelo has left, and he wants to see what Michelangelo's painting on the ceiling. Michelangelo actually finds out that he's coming. He waits, he hides, and when Julius shows up in the Sistine Chapel, he throws a board at the Pope's head. Now, Julius is going from having boards thrown at his head by that crazy Michelangelo to working with Raphael, who wants to sit and talk and ask Julius advice. It's a total contrast. Now, ultimately, Raphael's job is to paint Julius's library. No, Julius doesn't really read, but the library is a matter of status because books are hand-copied and very valuable in this time period. Julius has a number of different bookcases, and each bookcase contains a different subject of books. One contains philosophy, one contains religion, one contains history, and so on. Raphael is appointed to paint a painting. It's called a lunette. It's a half-circle painting above the bookcases that match the topic. So in other words, there's a picture of the First Communion over the religion bookcase. The one that's best known, though, is actually what Raphael paints over the philosophy bookcase in Pope Julius's library. That painting is called The School of Athens. It is a beautiful fresco that depicts ancient philosophers and artists from ancient Greece all coming together and talking with one another. The background here of the School of Athens actually has a very specific setting. If you look at those rounded vaults in the background, the ceiling, that actually is exactly the design that was originally planned for Julius's St. Peter's Basilica. You remember the basilica that Julius believed he was destined to create to help out the Christian church? Yeah, that one. So basically, Raphael paints all these famous dead Greek people in Julius's church in order to brown-nose Julius and win his favor. Below that, he actually splits the crowd into two pieces. On your right-hand side is a statue of Athena, goddess of wisdom and strategy. All the people on the right-hand side there are going to be philosophers, strategists. On the left, you'll see a picture of Apollo, the statue of Apollo, god of light and logic. On that side are mathematicians, philosophers, and people who fit in with Apollo. Raphael actually does create a center point or a focal point for the painting. Can you find where the focal point is? Where's the middle of the painting? Where does everything in the painting gradually lead you to? Where's your center point? Got it? It's right there. In fact, it's between those two guys' heads. Those two guys are in the center of the painting, and those two men represent for Raphael the center of philosophy. Those two men are Plato and Aristotle. The guy on your left is Plato. If you remember at the beginning of the class, we talked about Plato with his realm of ideals, a perfect place that's out there somewhere. If you look at the hand of the figure on your left, you're going to see it's pointing upward toward the sky, toward that realm of ideals. On your right is Aristotle. His hand is pointing downward toward the physical world, where Aristotle's main focus was. These two figures form as the center for the entire painting, but not only does Raphael paint Plato and Aristotle here, he makes these two guys portraits of his contemporaries. So, not only is that Plato on your left, it's also a portrait of Leonardo da Vinci. Not only is that Aristotle on your right, that's also a portrait of Pope Julius's favorite architect, Bramante. He is creating images of people from ancient Greece, but they're modeled after people from his own time period that he feels fit in with the character. Like he feels Leonardo da Vinci, with his brilliance, his understanding of so many different subjects, fits in with Plato's idea of the ideal and of intellectual prowess. Around Plato and Aristotle, Raphael adds a wide variety of people from ancient Greece. Some of them we recognize. For example, Zoroaster proposed an idea of the earth being inside a sphere of stars. You can see that in his hand back there on the left-hand side of the image. Ptolemy proposed a spherical system, including the earth as a globe. And again, we can recognize Ptolemy because of what you see in his hands. For the record, by the way, over Ptolemy's shoulder on your right-hand side, the guy in the black hat and the burgundy coat looking directly at you, that's a self-portrait of Raphael here, included in the School of Athens. He includes other people, like Pythagoras. Pythagoras is the guy down at your right-hand side, writing in the book with a chalkboard in front of him. We actually recognize one of Pythagoras' theories being depicted on that chalkboard down there. Hypatia is actually included as well. A great female strategist is included here in the School of Athens as well. There's one particular figure, though, in the School of Athens that I gotta point out. That's this guy. This is Heraclitus. The figure of Heraclitus is interesting to us because Heraclitus was actually added after the School of Athens was completed. Now, for the record, adding anyone to a fresco is a royal pain in the you-know-what, because you actually have to chisel a chunk of your plaster off the wall, respread your giornata, rehang a new cartone, trace the new cartone, then remove the cartone from the wall, and then paint the new image inside the lines. Raphael went through all of that for this figure. This is Heraclitus. Heraclitus was one of the grumpiest philosophers in ancient Greece. He was a brilliant man. However, Brilliant wasn't all. He was also mean as all get out. Heraclitus actually was known to tell Alexander the Great to move out of his way. This philosopher, brilliant but incredibly grumpy, is painted later, and once again, like the other figures, Raphael uses a person in his own time period as a model for Heraclitus. You want to guess? Yeah. Heraclitus is modeled after Michelangelo. Brilliant, but one of the crankiest men in history. Now, part of the reason that Michelangelo gets added into this painting several years later is because Michelangelo gradually does learn how to create a fresco.